But see, this is the thing. As we're talking, each one of us have a different opinion of professional
Well,
wrestling.
there are opinions, Brent, and then there's the right opinion.
Hey, I'm going to tell you what. If they pay me, I'll just say the LA Knight and the Usos. I love them all. And I'm going to be honest. I'm not an Usos fan. I don't
Hey, if
see
there's enough zeros, I'll get an AEW tattoo.
I will too. Yeah, I'm not an Uso fan, but I am a huge, huge Roman Reigns fan. I love him.
Well,
I love
that's
Gunther.
a classic example of what they're talking about, of allowing a person to grow in the position, and they did. I mean, the last time, I think, when they're talking about when he was there before, he came back as the tribal chief. That whole year was a disaster, from what I hear. Half the people was booing him, kind of like they were doing John Cena, and it was the people rejected him. I think that's what I watched the video of the people chanting, "You can't wrestle." Just brilliant.
AJ? What about AJ?
AJ can't act. He fits in real good over with NXT, from what I saw. And this falls directly on Corey Graves. He's supposed to be the acting coach. He should be teaching these people.
Let's see. Jack, does Jay Uso look 240 pounds to you?
No.
Let's see. Hasso is with us. Good evening, everyone.
Lying about weight.
Who would do such a thing?
Well, at least WWE. It's not AEW, because they're announcing people at 180 pounds.
I would imagine he'd be around in a moment or three. I'm not for sure. I mean, I'm thinking he's talking about Jimmy James. I think they asked where he was at. Let's see. All three of you guys, can you answer this question? What was the best wrestling promotion when you guys were growing up? Jack?
Growing up was Nick Goulas. It was the only promotion that I could see.
I'm going to say Georgia Championship Wrestling.
I started when I think about the time I was 16. I had figured out that if I held my tongue just the right way when I was turning the antenna, I could sometimes either get the visual or the audio of Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I fell in love with it immediately.
I think Georgia Championship Wrestling, then Mid-South Wrestling, and then Coast Condo. And then when we could watch stuff from Crockett, it was magnificent. We didn't always get to watch stuff from Crockett Promotions, but man, they had some great stuff going. I never was a big fan of Championship Wrestling from Florida. Something just didn't connect with me. AWA didn't connect to me. WWF didn't connect to me, or WWWF at the time. Rodney, what about you?
Well, mine was the same as yours. Georgia, then Mid-South, of course, then Continental, Southeastern. You're right about it. I think it's because we did not go to Florida, so we were not able to see the house shows. And if you put the production of Championship Wrestling in Florida against Georgia Championship Wrestling, there's a difference between night and day in that. It looked like that Championship Wrestling from Florida. Kindly do not attack us for this, but it looked like it was in a barn somewhere. Okay, so I mean, it's a sports arena, but it's in a barn. Okay, that's what it looked like. But from as far as the wrestlers and stuff, it looked like it was great stuff. But you're right, Georgia, Florida, and the Crockett shows are very much the same. They're the same genre, if you will. Whereas Memphis, Nick Goulas, and the Fullers are all kind of the same thing. Southwest.
Now, Memphis was a great show until it became the run-in show. And then I don't know when that happened. It was sometime
we always loved the groin matches. That was just stellar stuff right there.
Some wrestlers have forgotten. Ted DiBiase did an interview. And in this interview, he talked about why did he go to Georgia, and he talked about his wife. Says, "Well, we moved there because I wanted to be, it was a small territory. I could be home every night." And I don't know why I went there. I think that's that reason. Does he believe that story? He got there because they gave him his notice. Mid-South Wrestling, and Bill Watts told him to go to Georgia. He didn't do it on his own. He was there for a while and then went back.
And in that conversation, he said he made a lot of money there, and he probably did on those Ohio, West Virginia, Michigan tours, but he didn't mention those tours, okay? But that's the main reason anybody come, because Georgia itself was dead.
Yeah.
Dead. And it's not because the wrestling was dead. No. The towns were dead. It's just that they abandoned it. They went off to somewhere.
He did not. He said, I love Robert Fuller. He said, but I did not like his booking style, because we remember the argument he had on the trip back, back and forth, about how bad Robert Fuller was killing him. And this is what he said, Jim Barnett. He said he only talked to Jim Barnett twice while he was there. And it's because Jim Barnett was good about putting the booker in charge, and the booker was in charge. He didn't want to talk to the talent, or he would have been the booker. He didn't want to take care of the talent.
Correct. That is absolutely correct.
But Ted DiBiase said in that deal, and we know it to be a fact, he was very upset with his booking. And it did seem like Robert was trying to make sure he didn't get over. When he was told to get him over, that was not I think was the opposite. Maybe he heard it. Maybe he should have told him, don't get Ted DiBiase over. Maybe it'll work the other way around.
The mistake with DiBiase is they put him in a tag match.
Yeah,
he should have worked in the single. And that's just all there is to it, really.
Who was the Georgia heavyweight champion while he was there?
Well, that time they had just brought in the national title too. The last champion was the Superstar. He beat Tommy Rich. But I believe they only had the national champion. Of course, the first one was Jack Briscoe. Then it was the Stomper. Steve-O beat him, and then the Superstar had it. So the Superstar took him, put those belts together. So that was the Georgia
Could you imagine the money the Superstar Ted DiBiase could have made?
Sure, that would have been. I just thought about that the other day when I read the same story you were talking about, and I was thinking, what a difference it would have been if they would have put him in a single, because in every other place he had been in a single. When he was in St. Louis or he was in Mid-South, they featured him as a single wrestler, and then he got, stuck with doing all the selling while Robert made the hot tag. Also, Stan Frazier did as well.
Probably one of those. I won't say that was the worst booking of all time. Comes close in the top. There is a top 10 bad booking, and that has to go into there as some of the bad. Maybe
some of those matches. I'm not saying the matches were bad. They're not.
No, they're good.
Just, they were not designed to do anything but get Robert over. And it failed in all categories. It absolutely failed to the point where the people were cheering the Freebirds, and that was terrible. And I could understand why Barnett would have said, "Okay, we're going to have." You would have thought he would have brought him into the office and said, "Hey, we're going to have to make some changes here because this is not working."
Now, remember, Robert Fuller could not take care of the Omni shows anymore.
That's correct. And it came down to the Fantasia Gamble, whether the Freebirds eliminated. Was it Robert, Ted DiBiase, and was Stan Frazier, right? Or was it Junkyard Dog? Anyway, they eliminated Robert and whoever the partner is, Stan Frazier, and then it was DiBiase by himself. And instead of DiBiase going in and fighting all three, which if he did and then lost at the end with eliminating at least two and then being eliminated at the last, they didn't. DiBiase walked halfway up the aisle, almost up to the barricades, turned, looked at all three of them with Hayes standing up on the second rope, turned and walked out.
Yeah.
Turned and walked out of the Omni. This is the main, I think the World Champion's main event. But that doesn't get anybody over to turn and run, and that's what he did. He turned and ran.
And that was the booking after that.
We was hot. We were at the Omni. We were hot. I think we asked Dad, what in the world? And I don't think we were at that point. Were we? I don't know. We had it being officially introduced. Yeah. But I think we saw him down at the bottom and think, what in the world was that garbage? Why did he turn and walk out? Oh, we was hot that night.
And think DiBiase was understood hot. That killed him. That was the end of him when they did that. So
And then when they did the pile driver thing, this was after Robert. This was when Buck Robley came in. It was beautiful. Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. That's exactly what should have been done. Oh, I'm going to get hot. That's the same thing that happened on television with Buck Robley should have been what happened to the Omni with DiBiase, where he never quit. He never stopped. He fought and fought and fought. And instead, no, he turns and runs. No. The wrong person was in charge.
Yes. Buck Robley did a good job at getting people over. And people can say whatever they want to about Buck Robley, but he was able to get the Junkyard Dog over during that point in time. He was able to get Ted DiBiase over. And then, well, Brody doing what Brody does, cause trouble.
He would have, honestly,
major scale.
Would he know that? Would Brody known that he couldn't do that on that TV? I don't think he would. He saw that in there and he thought, I'm going to use that during this match. He would have never have thought that would have got him fired.
No, but at the same time, I think Buck Robley got fired and Bruiser Brody was brought back.
And well, yeah, but he was world championship wrestler by the time he was brought back. It was soon after that. But yeah, it was. But I think Brody roughing up Gordon also was an issue.
Yes. Jimmy James said, for the love of bikinis. What's causing all of this? All right, wrestling trivia. It won't all fit on here, so I'm going to say wrestling trivia challenge. Buddy Smith was a preliminary wrestler in the AEWA that had a much better success under what name? Buddy Colt, Playboy Buddy Rhodes, Freebird Buddy Roberts, Nature Boy Buddy Landell. Let everybody. Hey, Jimmy James wants us to know he is our Huckleberry. And if you've not watched the movie,
Huckleberry, yeah.
If you've not watched the movie, you're not going to understand. But you know, what was that movie from?
Man, was Tombstone?
Tombstone, yes. It was the doctor, whatever his name was. Now, you know,
Doc Holliday.
Doc Holliday would say that to one of the main characters there. Even Mickey Mayfield said, Jack, did you ever wrestle out of the U.S.?
Yeah, I did a show in Canada one time. That's the only one I did.
James Brown wants to know, Rodney, can you do the Orange Cassidy gimmick?
where I'm silent with my hands in my pocket? Sure. Depends on how much you're paying.
I had a joke there.
Well, go ahead.
I'm not even going to hit that joke there.
It's like when I can't sleep.
I watch that in Tubi myself. Yes.
How is wrestling today different between wrestling back in the day when you guys watched it, all three of us? Jack?
Well, I think it was much more fan interactive back in our day. I think there was a more overall appeal from the fans. We identified with wrestlers better than we do now. And I'm not saying any of that to diss today's products, but you know, people a lot of times will say that if wrestling back then had still worked, we would still be doing it that way. There was nothing wrong with the wrestling. It was the promoters end who refused to change their business practices is why our way of life ceased to be. And they started trying to glorify it and add the fireworks and all that kind of stuff. Was our wrestling better? When you talk about in-ring performances, yeah, it was 100 times better. Today, very few of the guys from back in the day would have been sports entertainers today. I don't think it would have appealed to them. There's no way an Ole Anderson would have survived in today's environment. They would have cut him from day one. And there's only a handful of guys today that you could take back in our time and make it. So there's a huge distinction, and I think that line that was drawn in the sand was in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, between professional wrestling and sports entertainment. And I've said this many times, you have to step back. You can enjoy today's product. There's a lot of today's stuff that I enjoy immensely, but I do not look at it as a professional wrestling fan. I mean, I can like more than one football team, so I can like more than two variations of what I grew up with. Got YouTube for what I love the best, and got today's product. I still can't make it through an AEW episode all the way. I just can't. I'm trying, guys. Honestly, I do try about once every 6 weeks. But anyway,
right.
That's me.
I think that's as far as longevity and people remembering wrestling. I think that the wrestling we grew up had more impact as far as the culture goes than today's product. That's for sure. It was sports oriented. It was more like you would have the same support as you would for a college football team. The wrestling was back then. And the fact of the matter is there was an event that you could participate in. You didn't have to watch it mostly on television, and it didn't cost you an arm and a leg to go to it either. You could actually bring the whole family and be a part of something and see, I was at the Omni when, the cage thing happened, or I was, in Chattanooga when Jackie Fargo did his, famous term. You don't have those historic moments anymore, as far as I'm concerned. But it was more sports oriented. It was more about each individual market than it was on a national cookie cutter style that they have today. And it was less choreographed, for sure. You would watch one of those matches and you think, well, this is a bunch of scrambled eggs. And the fact is, it was designed that way. It was chaos. An Anderson tag match was like nothing you'd ever seen. It was never the same, and it was constant movement. It wasn't the formula get heat on the baby face and then make the hot tag and go into the finish. That wasn't the way the Andersons worked their matches. It was constantly going back and forth through the entire match. It was certainly, to me, more impressive. We watched a match. We talked about a match last week between Ted DiBiase and Magnum TA. I put that match against anything they're doing today. The amount of talent that was in that ring was unbelievable. Even the referee got into it, which I was partial to this referee. He was pretty good, have to admit. It was the only time I've ever seen him do a drop down. It was fantastic. I enjoyed every moment of that. I believe I was more. I would be hoarse after coming away from matches when we used to go. If we'd have gone on a Thursday night, Friday, I had laryngitis. I couldn't talk at school or whatever else. And they were certainly happy about that at school. But the fact of the matter is that I was more into it. I don't think I would have the same reaction to today's product. I just simply don't. That's the way I feel about the difference.
My thing is believability.
Yeah.
Wrestling was meant for you to believe while you were watching it. I don't know. I don't think necessarily they cared if you believed it when you went home and you were but they wanted people to say, man, did you see Ole and Gene Anderson go against Wrestling 2? Man, we were there Friday night at that Atlanta City Auditorium. And I'm going to tell you, the rest of those matches, the rest of them wasn't that. Yeah, they were, but that was because we heard it. We heard people say, "Oh, the rest of these matches were just what they call them exhibition.
Exhibition,
matches.
Yes.
They really wasn't real ones." But boy, coming up now, Dick Slater Wrestling 2. Now that was real, and that's what they would say because they made you believe, and that's all you have to do is make them believe something. And back in the territory days, they made you believe. That's what's missing.
Honestly, this product I would not have been into.
No.
Growing up. I simply wouldn't have been into it.
I totally agree with that.
Because
if we had not come up in it and been through this transition, I would not have been into today's product at all.
And the key, I think, when we talk that late 80s in which we are talking about when corporate America got into it.
Yeah.
How corporate America destroyed the wrestling business. Ole Anderson.
And I when we were doing wrestling, even in the 70s and the 80s, you never heard Ole Anderson, Ronnie West, Bill Dundee. You never heard those guys say these words. Well, that would be funny. And if you go into a dressing room or you go into a wrestling company today, you're going to hear those words. Well, that would be funny. That's the worst words can be used in professional wrestling. If comedy will not sell you in wrestling, it will never get you past 2.3 million on a regular event, and it will never get you past 1.3 on cable, because comedy has never been the tops except for a very small, minute time frame when Seinfeld and those people were at the. If you think about it, all dramas was what did it. They need to make wrestling a drama. I don't like comedy, and when I watch something and it becomes a comedy, I turn it off. I go, oh man, I don't want to say that. And wrestling was believable. It was meant for you to believe it while you watched it, and that's the difference of today's wrestling. And I still will watch some things today, and I enjoy it. I've enjoyed watching Gunther wrestle. But he makes me believe. Football, I'll get into it. I'll yell at the thing. I'll be saying, Tennessee, you stupid. I'll be, oh man, Alabama's fixing to get beat. And I'll get into it. But when I watch wrestling, it's just so hokey and it's so goofy.
Cornette said the same thing about Gunther that you said.
I miss believability, and you can't do something serious and then 2 hours do a comedy routine and make me want to watch it. I watched the morning show. It's a drama and it's hooked me. And they'll have a little comedy. There's nothing wrong with having a little comedy. Hook me some way, but don't give me bad B movie actors. And you try to be an actor. Be a wrestler. Either be a wrestling company or just be an acting company.
You're talking about NXT again. I see that.
All right, we'll move on because we all had a.